So I'm going to type in Tom Muller MMA because apparently there's a hockey player named Tom Muller. But this Tom Muller, he's the owner, operator, and top rank at Comac MMA. And I'm wondering where his highlight video is. That's weird. Let's see. Tom Muller. Let's see if we can find this, because there was a long video. Tom Muller MMA Ring of Combat, maybe. So Tom was the first super heavyweight champion. Wow, it's not coming up. Tom Muller. Let's see if it's on his YouTube channel, because so Tom was my training partner. He taught me a lot of my Comac MMA. Okay, so this is from the Comac MMA. I'll subscribe, and then I'll go to their channel.
Hey guys, welcome to Comac Mixed Martial Arts Academy. My name is Professor Tom Muller. Come on inside.
Muller highlights. Here we go. So this was one of my major sparring partners when I was in the beginning of my MMA career. He's a black belt under Matt Serra. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And trying to get that screen right. Okay. So he's a black belt under Matt Serra, and he's the original super heavyweight champion of the Ring of Combat. This was in the early 2000s. I believe the super heavyweight was the equivalent of the heavyweight today. So I remember one time he was cutting and he was trying to make 205. So he's probably weighing in about 230 maybe. These days maybe more. Oh. Nice throw. So, Tom, obviously being a black belt in jiu-jitsu, very skilled on the ground, he could have tapped me at any time. His game is very realistic, meaning that. Hold on, let me just. Some people, they have like a jiu-jitsu game which is utilizing moves that if there were strikes you couldn't do. But Tom is actually his first style was karate, so he's aware of the strikes, in MMA. And then so my game of MMA grappling that I learned from him is always, being aware of that there could be strikes. Whereas some jiu-jitsu practitioners aren't used to striking, and then so they're able to use moves that you really couldn't. So there's a guy named Roger Gracie. He's the top competitor of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Roger. Another large heavyweight, I think he's 6'6" or 6'4". He said, when you take the gi off, you lose about 80% of the moves. He said, and then when you put strikes in, you lose another 80% of what's left. So true jiu-jitsu, and what I teach in my League of Champions program, is not a bunch of fancy moves, but basic moves that when they're perfected, it's a complete game. And you see Tom here using some wrestling. What he did was he got up off of his back and then he took the other guy down real quick. But I'm gonna fast forward to the MMA if I can, because, like I said, he was the first super heavyweight champion of the Ring of Combat, and we fought together on Ring of Combat #1, and we both actually flew to Las Vegas to be on the Ultimate Fighter Season 2, and he got on as well, but he declined because he didn't want to be a professional fighter, which I can understand, because at heavyweight, the blows are much, much more devastating. You get a higher finish percentage among heavyweights, and Tom himself is an athlete. You know, he's big, but he's not out of shape. You know, he's very athletic. And that brings me to my story. So Tom is one of my major sparring partners, believe it or not. At this time, you know, I would get the better of him in the striking, because basically I practiced it more. You know, when you're doing a sport where there are different ranges, like you know, you could have in baseball, you could have somebody who's a pitcher, somebody who's a catcher. In MMA, you have different arts like striking, you have grappling, and within the grappling, there's takedowns. Some people have special moves. Tom's using a short choke here into a rear naked, and that's the finisher. In the League of Champions, what you're going to do is hold that position. Now, we just watched that, lasted about, once he got the choke on, not even 8 seconds. If it was 8 seconds, the guy would have fell asleep unconscious, you know, and then the ref would have had to see that his limbs went limp if he could stop it. But anyway, in the League of Champions, you get that position, you hold that for 45 seconds max. If the person doesn't have to tap out, then they can fight their way out, they can learn, which to me, martial arts is a way that we are able to improve ourselves and improve the people that we work with. But this is sport fighting, okay, and I broke Tom's nose in sparring. I don't remember what I did. Maybe it was a cross or a hook, and I punched him in the nose, and it wasn't the first nose I broke, but you know, I had kind of a specialty in the stand-up. Tom used his striking right there to set up a takedown. This is a time when the UFC was in what they call the dark days, before they were bought out, or around the time when they were bought out by the Zuffa company and turned into a legitimate, you know, franchise or whatever. But so I broke Tom's nose, and then Tom broke my nose in a way. I'm just going to show you real quick. We'll watch one more finish here. See, the guy's trying to strike off the bottom. He really has to fight fire with fire here. Get a butterfly hook on his left leg. But he's caught up against the ropes. And Tom's going to pass. You see a lot of matches end up like this. The person on top grounds and pounds. And that's why wrestling is shown to be such a dominant art. First it was jiu-jitsu when the UFC first came out. Then the wrestlers took over. Then now what you're seeing is everybody's a good wrestler. So it ends up being a stand-up match again. And these strikes are very dangerous. And the guy was lucky that Tom was a jiu-jitsu guy and not a pure wrestler, because a pure wrestler would have pounded his head into the mat. Tom did the gentle way. He made him tap out. Oh, wow. Tom Muller, my sparring partner. Good job. I mean, you learned jiu-jitsu. You showed how it's really good to choke somebody out instead of hurt them with punches. Now, when he used to come to my gym, because he was in the grappling gym, I was in the striking gym. We chose our specialties. I've spent 20 years developing my system, and I used this headgear at one point because, to protect. Anyway, Tom hit me with an uppercut.
Yeah.
The super heavyweight uppercut, and dented it. He dented this thing with his fist. And that's why I have this scar on my nose. Shit. Wait, there it is. I can't okay. Wow. What a story. The super heavyweight uppercut. No, but it was just, the metal of the cage. If I was using another cage, like I've found some that are better. And let's see. Yeah, Tom was. Ooh, that's that Bruce Lee kick. Let's see, who is his toughest opponent? I want to see, because he got the call to the UFC, and I think he would have did really good because some of the guys that won had a similar style. Nope, that was it.